Common Stocks and Uncommon Profits and Other Writings by Philip A. Fisher. Certain names echo through investing history with an almost mythical quality. You know Benjamin Graham, the father of value investing, and obviously Warren Buffett, his most famous student. But here's the twist. Who did Warren Buffett himself look up to? Whose work did he study so carefully that it completely transformed how he thought about business? Buffett once wrote, "I am an eager reader of whatever Phil has to say, and I recommend him to you." He was talking about Philip A. Fisher. Unlike the Wall Street legends who thrived in New York City's chaos, Phil Fisher was a quiet, intensely private guy from San Francisco. He pioneered a completely new way of thinking. In the mid-20th century, while everyone else saw the stock market as a glorified casino, Fisher saw it as a way to become partners with extraordinary businesses. His groundbreaking book, Common Stocks and Uncommon Profits, published back in 1958, hit like a thunderclap. It became one of the very first investment books to crack the New York Times bestseller list. But its real impact wasn't the sales numbers. It was the radical simplicity and deep wisdom at its core. Fisher's son, Kenneth, who became a billionaire investor himself, remembers reading it at 8 years old and understanding absolutely nothing. But as he matured, he realized his father had drawn him a treasure map. Philip Fisher wasn't a trader chasing the market's next move. He was a business detective. He believed the real secrets to wealth weren't buried in complex charts or financial reports. They were out in the world, in conversations with customers, competitors, and employees. According to his son, this solitary genius loved 3 things above all: walking, worrying, and work. He was disciplined, sometimes cold, and so laser-focused on the long game that he made everyone else look hopelessly short-sighted. So today, we're stepping into this master's mind. We're unpacking Philip Fisher's timeless philosophy. And I promise, by the end, you won't just have some stock-picking tips. You'll have discovered a fundamentally different way of thinking about business, quality, and the incredible power of patience. This isn't just about making money. It's about understanding what makes a business truly great, a lesson that'll serve you for life, whatever path you choose. Let's rewind to the 1920s and 30s. Most people tried making money in stocks by, quote, playing the business cycle. The concept was simple. Buy when the economy's tanking and everyone's terrified. Sell when business is booming and everyone's euphoric. Buy low, sell high. A frantic dance of jumping in and out. Some people did make fortunes this way. But Philip Fisher noticed something everyone else was missing. While traders were busy dancing, a different group was getting far, far richer with way less risk. Who were they? People who did something almost revolutionary in its simplicity. They found a truly outstanding company, bought its stock, and then just held on. They held through booms and busts, panics and euphoria, wars and peace. They weren't trying to outsmart the market, they were partnering with greatness. This single observation became Fisher's entire foundation. The goal wasn't finding 100 mediocre companies that might bump up a little. It was finding a tiny handful of extraordinary companies that could grow sales and profits year after year, decade after decade. The kind that could turn $10,000 into $1 million over a lifetime. Which brings us to the first crucial question. How on earth do you find these rare gems before everyone else does? Fisher's answer wasn't in glossy annual reports or Wall Street spreadsheets. He believed those only showed you the past. To see the future, you had to leave the office and get your hands dirty. He had a special name for his method, scuttlebutt. Now, scuttlebutt might sound like old-fashioned gossip slang, but for Fisher, it was a disciplined art. It was becoming a business detective. He believed the truth about a company wasn't in CEO press releases. It was in the scattered whispers and honest opinions of people whose lives the company touched daily. So what did this detective work actually look like? Instead of just analyzing financial statements, Fisher talked to 5 groups of people. First, the company's competitors. He found that if you approach people intelligently and promise not to quote them, They're surprisingly candid about other players, strengths and weaknesses. If you talk to 5 competitors about a target company, and 4 grudgingly admit, "We hate to say it, but they're the best. We fear them," you've struck gold. Second, he talked to customers. Are they happy, loyal? Would they switch for a slightly lower price? Or is the product so good they couldn't imagine leaving? A loyal customer base is like a moat around a castle. Third, suppliers. Do they get paid on time? Does the company drive unfair bargains or treat suppliers like partners? A company squeezing suppliers might look good on spreadsheets temporarily, but one building strong relationships has a more resilient foundation. Fourth, former employees. This one's tricky, some have grudges. But if you find several who left on good terms, they can give you an unvarnished look at internal culture. Is it where great ideas flourish, or where politics and bureaucracy crush innovation? Finally, scientists and university researchers in the company's field. They often have a clear-eyed view of which companies are doing truly groundbreaking research versus just making noise. Kenneth Fisher put it perfectly. The scuttlebutt method would have saved investors from every major corporate scandal of the last 50 years. Think about Enron or WorldCom. On paper, they looked amazing. Wall Street loved them. But if you'd done your scuttlebutt, talked to competitors, you'd have found no one was particularly scared of them. Their customers would have told you their products weren't special. The strength wasn't there on Main Street, even if it looked like it was on Wall Street. Scuttlebutt is about avoiding what Kenneth Fisher called the malarkey mills and seeking truth from the ground up. It's hard work, takes time, but it's the only way to get a real, 3-dimensional picture of a business. So once you've done your detective work, what exactly are you looking for? What clues separate a good company from a life-changing investment? This is where Fisher gives us his legendary blueprint, the 15 points. Don't worry, I'm not just listing them like a boring checklist. These 15 points are a way of thinking, a lens for viewing business. We can group them into a few powerful ideas. The first big idea is about a grand ambition. Fisher wasn't interested in companies trying to have just a good year. He wanted companies trying to build empires, decade after decade. His very first point: does the company have products or services with enough market potential to allow sizable sales increases for at least several years? He wasn't looking for one-hit wonders. He gives the example of the 1950s television boom. Many companies made quick fortunes as every American home bought its first TV. But once that market was saturated, growth stopped cold. That wasn't what Fisher wanted. He wanted companies whose markets were so vast, or whose innovation ability was so profound, that growth could continue almost indefinitely. He made a wonderful distinction between 2 types of great growth companies. The first he called fortunate and able. Take Alcoa, the aluminum company of America. Its founders were brilliant, but even they couldn't foresee the full range of aluminum uses that would emerge over the next century, from airplanes to soda cans. The company was fortunate to be in an industry that grew beyond wildest dreams, but also had the ability to capitalize on that fortune. The second type, which he found even more impressive, he called fortunate because they are able. His prime example was DuPont. DuPont didn't start making nylon, cellophane, or Teflon. For 100 years, it made explosives. Its growth should have been tied to mining and construction. But management had such brilliant technical and business skill that they learned to apply chemistry knowledge to create entirely new industries, product after product, turning a gunpowder company into a scientific giant. This leads to Fisher's second point. Does management have determination to keep developing new products that will increase sales even after current product lines are largely exploited? In other words, is leadership ever satisfied? The great ones never are. They're relentlessly, obsessively focused on what's next. They see current success not as a destination, but as a launching pad. This brings us to the second big idea, the engine of excellence. Ambition alone isn't enough. You need a world-class engine to make it happen. For Fisher, this engine had a few critical components. First, how effective are the company's research and development efforts? Fisher points out that just looking at R&D spending is almost useless, even misleading. Some companies call routine engineering research. What really matters is output. Is the research team actually creating profitable new products? He tells us great research isn't the work of a lone genius in a lab coat. It's about teamwork, coordinating chemists, physicists, and engineers, and crucially, connecting them to sales and production teams. A brilliant new product that can't be manufactured efficiently or that customers don't actually want is just an expensive hobby. The second engine part is equally vital but often overlooked. Point 4. Does the company have an above-average sales organization? Fisher believed that in our competitive world, even the best products don't sell themselves. He writes, "The making of a sale is the most basic single activity of any business. Without sales, survival is impossible. Great companies obsess over their sales force." He gives the example of Dow Chemical. Before new Dow salespeople could even speak to potential customers, they went through over a year of specialized training. Or IBM, where the average salesperson spent a third of their entire career in company-sponsored schools just to keep up with changing technology and serve customers better. An amazing sales force is a competitive weapon incredibly difficult for others to replicate. The final engine parts are a worthwhile profit margin and management constantly working to maintain or improve those margins. High profit margins signal strength. It means the company is so efficient or its product so desirable that it has a healthy cushion between costs and selling price. This cushion is vital. In good times, it fuels growth. In bad times, it's a shock absorber, letting the company survive, even thrive, while weaker competitors struggle or fail. But Fisher warns against companies improving profit margins simply by raising prices. That's temporary. Truly great companies do it through constant innovation, designing more efficient equipment, streamlining processes, finding smarter ways to do business. The third big idea in Fisher's framework is perhaps most important, the human factor. Fisher believed that, in the long run, a company is nothing more than the collective quality of its people. And he had a few non-negotiable points here. Point 7. Does the company have outstanding labor and personnel relations? This isn't some soft feel-good idea. For Fisher, it was pure profit. He understood happy, respected employees are productive employees. A company where workers feel fairly treated is where great things happen. High labor turnover is a hidden tax on profits, constantly costing money to train new people. He believed you could tell a lot about a company by the waiting list size of people wanting to work there. Even more critical was point 8. Does the company have outstanding executive relations? Top leadership sets the tone for everything. Is it where promotions are based on merit or politics and favoritism? Is there teamwork or a snake pit of internal rivalries? Fisher adamantly avoided companies run by a single autocratic genius who couldn't delegate. A small company might survive that temporarily, but as it grows, it'll inevitably hit a ceiling. This leads to point 9. Does the company have management depth? Is there a succession plan? Is the company actively training the next generation of leaders? A great company is built to outlast any single individual, no matter how brilliant. And finally, the cornerstone of the human factor, the 15th and final point. Does the company have management of unquestionable integrity? For Fisher, this was the ultimate deal breaker. Management teams are always closer to assets than stockholders. If they lack a deep sense of moral responsibility and trusteeship, there are countless ways they can enrich themselves at ordinary shareholders' expense, all without breaking laws. He said if there's any serious question about management integrity, an investor should never, ever consider participating in that enterprise, no matter how attractive every other factor seems. So you've done your scuttlebutt. You've run a company through the 15-point filter, and you've found one, a rare gem. A business with grand ambition, a powerful engine of excellence, and a culture built on great people with integrity. Now the next crucial question, when do you buy it? This is where Fisher once again flips conventional wisdom. Most people try to time the market. They study economic charts, listen to forecasts, try to guess whether the overall market will go up or down. Fisher thought this was a complete waste of time. He compared economic forecasting to medieval alchemy, mysterious mumbo-jumbo, where the chances of being right weren't nearly good enough to risk your savings. He argued predicting the entire economy is a fool's errand. But if you've done your scuttlebutt, you can predict what a single specific company will do relative to the general economy with much higher certainty. So if you shouldn't time the market, what should you time? Fisher's answer is brilliant. You time the company. He said the perfect time to buy a great company is when it's temporarily unpopular or facing short-term difficulties that you, as an informed detective, know are solvable. What do these situations look like? Often when a company's making a huge investment in its future, and those costs are temporarily depressing current profits. For example, maybe a company's building its first-ever large-scale commercial plant for a revolutionary new product. The financial community's excited. The stock price jumps in anticipation. But then, the plant hits trouble. Getting the bugs out of a brand-new, complex process always takes longer and costs more than anyone expects. As months pass and unexpected expenses pile up, the company's per-share earnings dip. Wall Street gets nervous. The same analysts who cheered the new product now whisper that management blundered. The stock price falls. That, Fisher said, is your moment. The moment of maximum pessimism is often the moment of maximum opportunity. Because you've done your homework, you know management is brilliant. You know the product is revolutionary. And you know these startup troubles are just temporary hurdles on the path to enormous future profits. While everyone else panics and sells, you can buy a magnificent business at a bargain price. He gives the real-world example of American Cyanamid in the early 1950s. The company was investing hugely in a giant new chemical plant in Louisiana. The plant had so many engineering problems it was months behind schedule and draining profits. The stock was unpopular. But a few savvy investors who understood the temporary nature of these problems bought heavily. A few years later, the plant ran smoothly, profits soared, and the stock produced massive gains for those who had the courage and foresight to buy when everyone else was scared. The key is, you're not guessing about the broad economy. You're making an informed judgment about a specific situation within a company you understand deeply. The buying opportunity comes not from market-wide fear, but from company-specific troubles you have good reason to believe are temporary. Now this brings us to what might be the most radical and powerful idea in the entire book. You've found a great company. You've bought it at the right time. When do you sell it? Fisher's answer is as simple as it is shocking. He said if you've done your job correctly when buying the stock, the time to sell is almost never. This is the absolute heart of his philosophy. He believed truly spectacular profits don't come from buying and selling. They come from finding one of the rare great companies and holding on for the long, long run for years, even decades. He laid out 3 and only 3 valid reasons for selling a great stock. The first reason is simple. You made a mistake. Your original analysis was wrong. The company, upon closer inspection, isn't as great as you thought. When you realize this, Fisher said sell immediately, regardless of whether you're taking a small profit or small loss. He believed more money has been lost by investors holding stocks they don't want anymore, just waiting to get back to even, than for any other single reason. Your ego is your worst enemy here. Acknowledge the mistake, learn from it, move on. Capital tied up in a mistake can't be put to work in a truly great opportunity. The second reason to sell is if the company has fundamentally deteriorated. This usually happens one of 2 ways. Either management quality has declined, maybe success made them complacent, or a new generation of leaders isn't as good, or the company's simply reached a point where its markets are saturated, and it can no longer grow faster than the overall economy. When this happens, the stock no longer meets the criteria for an outstanding investment and should be sold, even if it means paying large capital gains tax. The third reason is rare. It's when you find a dramatically better opportunity. An investment so clearly superior to your current holding that it makes sense to pay taxes and switch. But Fisher warns this should be done with extreme caution. The risk of misjudging the new company is high, whereas you have the advantage of knowing your current holding, warts and all. And that's it. Those are the only 3 reasons. What's missing from this list? All the common reasons people sell stocks. Fisher was scathing about selling a great stock just because you think a bear market's coming. We've already seen, he thought predicting the market was impossible. But even if you could, he asks, how will you know when to buy back in? He saw countless investors sell wonderful companies out of fear, only to watch them soar to new heights while stuck on the sidelines, waiting for a dip that never came, or paralyzed by fear when the dip did come. He was equally dismissive of selling just because a stock seems overpriced. What does overpriced even mean for a company that might quadruple earnings in 10 years? A truly great company, he argued, will almost always look expensive by conventional measures. Its quality and growth prospects command a premium. To sell such a company for a 30% gain might feel smart short-term, but could mean missing a 3,000% gain long-term. But his most powerful argument against selling comes as a wonderful analogy. Imagine, he says, on graduation day, you had the chance to make a deal with 3 of your most promising classmates. You'd pay them a lump sum today, and in return, for the rest of their lives, they'd give you a quarter of everything they earned. You'd do your homework. You'd pick the 3 classmates you believed had the most ambition, talent, and integrity destined for greatest success. Now fast forward 10 years. One's a rising star at a major corporation, on track to become CEO. He's already earning huge amounts, and his future looks even brighter. Another classmate has a decent, steady job but isn't really going anywhere. The third is struggling. Would anyone in their right mind advise selling your contract with the future CEO just because you could get 6 times your original investment, and then use that money to buy out the struggling classmate's contract just because he hasn't had his run-up yet? Of course not. It sounds absurd. And yet, Fisher says, that's exactly what investors do every single day when they sell shares in a brilliant, proven, growing company to buy shares in a mediocre, stagnant one, just because the second looks cheaper. The lesson is profound. When you find a truly outstanding company, you're not just owning paper. You're partnering with a dynamic, growing enterprise run by exceptional people. To sell that partnership for a small, short-term gain is to fundamentally misunderstand the nature of great investing. You don't trade greatness, you hold on to it. This leads to his views on dividends. In Fisher's time, and still today, most investors see high dividends as a sign of a safe, good investment. Fisher thought this was complete nonsense. For a true growth company, every dollar earned is a precious seed. That dollar can be paid out as a dividend, where you'll pay taxes, then try to find another great company to reinvest the leftover 70 or 80 cents in. Or that dollar can be kept by the company, the brilliant company you already picked, and be reinvested by its expert management into building a new plant, launching a new product, or expanding into a new market. Every dollar retained by the company is a dollar that works for you, 100 cents on the dollar, tax-free, under the guidance of the very people whose skill you trusted in the first place. For an investor still in their saving and investing years, Fisher argued, a high dividend payout from a growth company isn't a gift, it's a tragedy. It's the company giving up on its own future. The greatest long-term dividend returns, he showed, don't come from today's high-yield stocks. They come from low-yield growth stocks that, over a decade or two, grow earnings so much that even their small payout percentage eventually becomes a huge income stream based on your original investment price. In the end, all of Philip Fisher's ideas boil down to a philosophy of discipline, patience, and unwavering focus on quality. He gave us a set of powerful don'ts that serve as guardrails for any serious investor. Don't buy promotional companies, brand new, unproven ventures. Let them get a track record first. Don't ignore a good stock just because it's traded over the counter and not on a big exchange. Quality is quality, wherever you find it. Don't just look at past numbers. It's the next 5 years that matter, not the last 5. Don't quibble over eighths and quarters when buying. He tells a heartbreaking story of an investor who missed out on over $46,000 in profit because he refused to pay an extra $50 for his initial purchase. And most importantly, don't follow the crowd. The greatest opportunities arise when the financial community has fundamentally misjudged a situation. The ability to see reality when everyone else is caught up in myth, whether fear or euphoria, separates good investors from great ones. His son Kenneth tells a story that perfectly captures his father's entire philosophy. The legendary Forbes magazine editor James Michaels once asked Philip Fisher a question he carried for the rest of his life. It's a question that cuts through all the noise and gets to the very heart of what makes a business extraordinary. The question is this: what are you doing that your competitors aren't doing yet? The company constantly asking itself that question never becomes complacent. It's always innovating, always pushing, always looking to the future. It is, in short, a Philip Fisher company. And for the patient investor, it's the path to uncommon profits. As we step back and look at the world Philip Fisher described, it's easy to think, that was then, this is now. His book was written in 1958. The world has changed in ways he never could have imagined. We have the internet, instant global communication, high-frequency trading, and financial media that never sleeps. And yet, the more the world changes, the more timeless Fisher's wisdom becomes. Why? Because Philip Fisher wasn't writing about stock market trends. He was writing about two eternal things: business fundamentals and human nature. And neither has changed one bit. The most powerful lesson from this book, the one I hope stays with you long after you've finished listening, is this: investing isn't about playing a game against the market. It's about finding and partnering with exceptional people building exceptional businesses. In a world obsessed with speed, with quarterly earnings, with the next hot trend, Fisher's philosophy is a radical call for patience. It's an invitation to slow down, think deeply, and focus on what truly matters over the long run: business quality and people's integrity. His scuttlebutt method is more relevant today than ever. In an age of information overload, where we're bombarded with data and opinions, seeking out primary, on-the-ground knowledge is a superpower. So how can you start applying these ideas in your own life right now? Let me give you 3 simple actions. First, start your own scuttlebutt file. You don't need to be a professional investor. Pick one company you're curious about, maybe a brand you love, a store you shop at, or technology you use daily. Your mission is simple. Find 3 different perspectives on it. Read customer reviews with a critical eye. If you know someone who works or worked there, ask what the culture's really like. Look for articles interviewing their competitors. Just looking at a business from multiple angles, instead of just your own, will train your mind to think like Fisher. Second, next time you hear a friend or news anchor talk about a stock, ask yourself Fisher's questions. Are they talking about the market, the price, the hype? Or are they talking about the business? Do they know who the customers are? Do they know if employees are happy? Do they know if management has integrity? You'll quickly see that 99% of financial talk is noise, not signal. Learning to filter out that noise is one of the most valuable financial skills you can ever acquire. And third, practice the almost never sell mindset in a small way. Maybe it's not a stock. Maybe it's a hobby you're good at, or a project you believe in. Next time you hit a setback, when things get hard and you feel the urge to quit and take your profits by moving to something easier, pause. Ask yourself, have the fundamentals changed? Do I still believe in the long-term potential here? Learning to hold on through temporary difficulty is a muscle, and the more you exercise it, the stronger your patience and resolve become. That was a summary of Common Stocks and Uncommon Profits by Philip Fisher. We've explored the main avenues of his thinking today. But a summary is like looking at a map of a beautiful country. The real adventure, the real discovery, happens when you decide to travel there yourself. This book is more than just an investing guide. It's a masterclass in business analysis and long-term thinking. If any of the ideas we discussed today sparked a light in your mind, I truly encourage you to pick up a copy. Reading it isn't just an act of learning. It's an experience that can fundamentally shift how you see the world of business and the path to building lasting wealth. You can find a link to the book in the description below. Also, if this journey through Philip Fisher's wisdom has brought you some value, please take a moment to click that like button and subscribe to the channel. It's the best way to make sure you don't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book from the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's keep learning and growing together.